I know this sucks, right? Yeah, this feels like it sucks a lot. And definitely I need to tell you this because you need to know this before you buy a $2,500 cutting edge machine from Apple nowadays. Hello guys and welcome to another episode. I am Alex and today I have something a bit different for you in mind with this video, and that is a bit of a salty rant from my side, but it's definitely some key information, I should say some need to know information for you before making any sort of conscious decision of buying such a product like this M2 Macbook Pro that I have right here. I promise not to waste your time because this is definitely a need to know information for you, and that is the fact that basically you are going to just throw away $2,500 if you are going to choose any sort of MacBook 2016 or newer because of the way that Apple designed these computers, and that is to integrate the NAND flash on their motherboards that's being soldered on, by the way. And definitely, although that's providing you with a lot of efficiency, it is definitely one way to kill your device without any way of sort of fixing your device after the NAND flash dies. So in order to make a bit more sense, I will tell you the gist of what's happening here. So Apple basically tries to every time innovate with their products, and that's a very nice thing to do, but Apple is trying to definitely do that at your expense. So that means if you're buying $2,500 of a laptop nowadays and you find yourself in about 1 year and a half or 2 years, so that's not a very long time frame from buying it, with a dead laptop, you won't really have anything to do with it because you can't really basically fix it in any way, shape or form. That's because these NAND chips that Apple implements into their devices are custom made for these devices, and they're not being, or I should say, these NAND chips are not really available on the market for anybody else to buy them except Apple. Well, what's the problem with these NAND chips? Well, first of all, they are finite in their capacity to read and both write. So that means that one day you will basically find yourself in a situation where you're trying to turn on your machine like you always do and it won't boot up. That's because, well, the BIOS won't really be able to find the NAND chip. That's because the NAND chip just dies. The problem with not replacing this NAND chip is not as easy as, just desoldering the NAND chip and putting in there another brand new NAND chip, because as I've said before, these NAND chips are custom made for Apple, and that's because of their T2 chips that actually started being implemented in 2016 or newer devices, where that T2 chip, alongside with some security features, it's acting like a basically BIOS UEFI for a PC. And the way that works is basically all that BIOS information is actually stored on something that is called BridgeOS on the NAND chip itself. And as long as that NAND chip works, that T2 chip is able to read that BIOS off that NAND chip and everything is a-okay. But as soon as that NAND chip dies, then the T2 chip has no idea what's happening and basically your computer cannot boot up. To make things worse, starting with their M1 and M2 processors, or I should say SoCs, that means basically that device is a $2,500 brick from that moment on. Before that, you could actually, stick a SSD or a hard drive in there, basically use a dongle and connect it externally to your computer right here. You would boot up holding the option key down, and basically you could choose to boot into whatever OS you had on that SSD or external drive, and you could still, basically use the computer that way, as long as, you wouldn't really be mindful of using dongles and accessories and stuff like that. But that was I would say a hardware bypass of whatever was happening inside the motherboard with the soldered on SSDs or NAND chips at the time. But starting with the implementation of this BridgeOS on the NAND side chip, basically that route is also closed for you as an end consumer. And well, for the fact that you cannot even find these NAND chips to buy them, the only way to actually get them for yourself or in trying to fix a laptop is to get it to somebody that is able to buy motherboards secondhand and basically desolder these NAND chips from those motherboards and resolder them onto your motherboard into giving you some sort of repair, because basically, remember what I said, all these NAND chips are actually finite in their capacity to have both data read and write off of them. So yeah, that's a big no-no for me. I was actually planning to keep this MacBook Pro that I have right here. Once again, you can find the review up here in the link that I will be posting alongside with this video. And this is brand new information that I have just found out, and that's basically gonna turn me off and have me return this MacBook, because I don't really want to invest, because I see it as an investment, to to put it into something that is going to last me for a few years before I have to throw it away in the bin and buy something new from Apple. I pretty much care about Apple, and I realize that they have to innovate and be all the time on the leading edge of technology, and that's really nice because that led to a lot of nice things over the years. But doing this at the expense of the end consumers, I find this a bit disappointing, to say the least, in Apple products. And you won't be seeing me buying anything from Apple anytime soon, or at least until they find a workaround without destroying basically your investment without any sort of regards. There's another problem here with the NAND chips inside these computers, and that is the fact that they can fail in two basic ways. And the second way that it's going to fail is actually atrocious, because it has a way of shorting itself out, and well, basically whenever it does that, it fries everything on the motherboard, basically rendering everything on that motherboard useless. So yeah, you can have it sent to somebody to repair your NAND chip on this device, and they could buy themselves, you know, a second-hand motherboard from somebody else, but they have no idea how the previous NAND chips failed, or if they failed at all. And if they did fail, there's a high chance that basically everything on that motherboard is fried as well, and basically throwing away a few $100s for a replacement part that wasn't even new and wasn't even going to last you as long as the one in the original machine. I know this sucks, right? Yeah, this feels like it sucks a lot. And definitely I need to tell you this because you need to know this before you buy a $2,500 cutting edge machine from Apple. Now, I have another rant inside a rant here, because this is the topic of this video, and this is definitely to do with the fact that whenever you're speccing out a machine like this one, if you are going for their standard capacity, which is 512 gigs on the M2 Pro right here, you are only going to get one NAND chip on that motherboard, and that's definitely going to affect the performance of the overall machine, and basically is going to give you around half the read and write performance in comparison to the previous M1 generation Macs. And that's definitely not something that you would expect from the newer higher-end model that they're asking more money for, right? So with this machine right here, for instance, I can definitely run Blackmagic right here. I'm not gonna bother doing some in-screen here, but definitely running here, disk. Let's start the disk Blackmagic start here, and as you can see the test here, we have some 3000 megabytes per second write speeds and around 3000 megabytes per second read speeds. And this definitely, if you are going to look up the internet everywhere, you can see that basically the M1 Macbook Pro does double this with the 512 gigs capacity. That's because it comes with more NAND flashes soldered onto the motherboard, and that gives you more open lanes of communication with the SoC, and definitely increases the performance. So I should say just doubles the performance in comparison to the standard configuration M2 Pro. So yeah, this is one thing that they don't bother telling you for $2,500 of your hard-earned money, and I find it to be extremely disappointing once again. But yeah, this is definitely something that you have to know, and alongside is the fact that well, of course you are going to invest this money, and probably you won't make it, I would say, 2 to 3 years from now without having to change out this machine entirely, because it's going to fail in a catastrophic way, and Apple is not going to care. I will link down in the link below somebody that's actually more capable of shedding more light probably in a better way for you, and that is Lewis from Lewis Rossman, because he's an absolute great technician working on MacBooks. Well, he basically started his business and his life working on MacBook products, or I should say Apple products. And yeah, he did find this out alongside with other people on the internet, and he is trying to shed more light on the subject, and I definitely respect his point of view. So yeah, I'll link his video down in the video description of this one, but in case you have missed his video, this is definitely something that you have to be aware before you buy such a product from Apple moving forward from 2023. Right guys, thank you so very much for choosing to stick with me on this salty rant, but from this point moving forward, I will actually try and do such an episode each and every time I see a huge red flag like this for us as end consumers, because we all have to be informed about you know, our basic spending decisions, and basically not allow companies to, you know, divide and conquer us by basically offer us shit products for a lot of money. Alright, stay awesome guys. Thank you so much once again, and see you guys in the next one.